What up, what up, what up? Welcome back to Lockdown Universe, home of the bizarre, peculiar, and unheard of stories of UFO legend and paranormal lore. Welcome back, welcome back. Happy to be back. Hopefully you guys are doing well and taking care of yourselves. So today I wanted to talk to you about a theory out on the interwebs about the fact that the dream world that we live in every night, whether it's dreams or nightmares or somewhere in between, might actually be the real world. And why do I say that? Well, we'll get into it. But there's a lot of reasons why people speculate that this might be the case. So what are some of the prime examples of why this might be the case? You see, when I dream, I used to have a lot of nightmares. But nowadays, I don't really have that many nightmares. I actually have a lot of good dreams. And so it made me think, wow, I've been having so many good dreams that I don't even want to, wake up half the time. I want to be staying in the real world of the dream world, which is kind of confusing. But it feels so real sometimes when I've woken up that it's almost confusing when you wake up. Or it is confusing. It has been confusing on a few days where I'm like, what is going on? Where the heck am I? Is this the real world? I feel like I was just in the real world. So, what if we got the simulation backwards? What if this, the bills, the traffic, the drama of relationships is the simulation in the dream world where you actually live? So, if you look at the dream world, there's not a lot of pain. There's not a lot of consequences. So that's number one. Let's look at that. In dreams, you can fall off a building, get shot, get dumped, wake up perfectly fine. The theory is that the pain and the suffering are a feature of this reality specifically, not a universal law in all realities. So it raises the question, why is this one rigged with a bunch of pain and a bunch of suffering? To me, it doesn't make sense. Why do we have to go through so much pain and so much suffering? So let's look at it even further. Okay. So when we look at the dream world, physics don't apply. You can fly. You could a lot of times we teleport from one situation to the next. I find that one of the most interesting aspects is that you'll be in one situation with a group of people or a scenario, and then immediately you'll be boom into another scenario. Some scientists state that that's because you're going from one REM state to another REM state, or you were in a REM state for like an hour, then you went out of it into like low, deep sleep, and then came back into REM, and you were able to have a different scenario. But the timeline between the two seems like nothing. It seems like it was immediate. So physics just don't apply. You're basically like Neo in your dream world. If you are able to lucid dream, then you really have total control over your entire dream world, over your entire scenario. And it makes you think, if you could do that in your dream world and you have control over it, can you take that into this world and manifest, the key word of the decade, manifest, what happens in your real situation in your life. In dreams, there's no bills, there's no jobs, although a lot of people dream about their job, but you don't have to have a job to survive in the dream. That's the interesting thing. What if debt and rent and all the DMV lines were just engineered friction in this lifetime that we have to deal with on a day-to-day basis? Like some kind of control that they control us in. Almost like the Matrix, where they control us. They were controlling people in the Matrix to have to go to jobs, go do this. But outside of the Matrix, their bodies were just like hovering in this goo, and they could have been free, but they had to live within the confines of the Matrix. But the Matrix was actually the dream world. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of what I'm likening this to, that we're kind of like in this dream world when we're alive, quote unquote alive. You know, we can get cut, we can get hurt, we can experience those things. But what if that's all part of the manipulation matrix? And is there like any precedence for like this kind of thought process? Well, this isn't actually a new idea. Zhuangzi's butterfly dream of the 4th century BCE in China had this same thought process. There's also Gnostic concepts of the material world as a flawed prison, and Tibetan Buddhism has dream yoga that treat waking reality as less real than the really real state. You know, and a lot of people who experience near-death experiences state that the next world really feels like the real world, and this world feels like it's fake. Not real. Not as real as the next one, which is kind of interesting. So I wanted to take a look at this too, because emotional intensity in dreams doesn't have long-term damage. So you can have a dream where like your whole family dies and you grieve, and then it's gone within 20 minutes. Some see this as like evidence that dreams have lower stakes, like it's a rehearsal space, and others actually flip it around as the opposite, that waking life is the rehearsal and dreams are where things actually register. That's kind of interesting too, to me, in my viewpoint. So what if this lifetime is hell and dreams are like almost heaven? The dreams could be like the baseline of life, and waking life could be like the punishment and the testing ground for the dreams. You see, in dreams, this is interesting. I was just thinking about this yesterday. They're predictive. Many people predict what's going to happen tomorrow in the dream. So how can you experience life before it happens? It almost doesn't make sense, right? Well, what if you were experiencing it in the dream, because the dream world is the real world, and then you experience it in life as like a memory, but a testing ground? So the dream world is like your thoughts being created for the future, or you're receiving what's going to happen in the future. And then when you live it, it's the testing ground for the thoughts that you had, or the collective consciousness stream that you were tuning into, almost like a radio, drawing that future timeline into your brain and then living it out and dealing with the consequences in real life. So I feel like that this could be like the proving ground, which it is. We know that, we know that because people who have died and come back have stated they've had the 360-degree life review. And when they do that, they see all of the pain, all of the pleasure, all of the benefits, or the sorrow that they brought to their family members and friends, co-workers, and more. And they get to live it through those other people. It's fascinating. So let's do a little quick fact check to keep us honest. Sleep researchers would point out that dream logic breaks down. Bad memory, you can't read text, there's no consistent physics. That's because the brain's frontal lobe is partially deactivated during REM sleep. It's not because it's a freer reality. It's worth stating, basically that this is what the sleep researchers are going to tell you. Maybe the dream isn't the escape. Maybe it's the only time you can clock out from reality. So that's really interesting in itself, right? Because a lot of people say that they can't read text when they're in the dream world. They just can't read it. They can't see it. They can't see a clock. And they say that it's because the frontal lobe is deactivating during that REM sleep. So that's really interesting to me too. We have a part of our brain that just goes dormant during this sleep process because we need the rest. I wanted to do this podcast, and part of me, knows that it's not an accurate statement to say that the dream world is the real world. However, many people state that they feel like their dreams are more real than this life. Lately, I've been having so many dreams that have felt so real that it's made me question what's going on in this life versus that life. I know in this life I can make decisions, and in my dreams, it doesn't feel like I make all the decisions, that I'm kind of watching a movie. I know that I've had predictive dreams where I predicted that I was going to see somebody the next day, or I was going to do something the next day that I wasn't planning on, but it happened. Like you went to the grocery store and you came across, I don't know, something that you weren't expecting. Or, you were driving and you saw something happen, a crash or something, and you had dreamt about it the day before. Something like that. You know what I mean? And not maybe even as common as that, but something similar to that. I don't know about you, but I've had so many dreams that have predicted the future of my personal life. Not like something like predicting, a mass casualty event or, something great that was going to happen the next day. But I've had dreams where I could predict in my own life what was going to happen. Like, again, like meeting somebody you didn't even know, or something happened in your life that you just weren't expecting. So to me, it feels like there's something that we're tapping into, a collective unconscious. It's always been there. It's always within us. And it's part of our whole biofield as a humanity. I feel like everybody can tap into it if they want to, or if they're tuned into it, or if they haven't had their pineal gland too calcified, or whatever people say. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many theories of why you can't tap into it. Sometimes it feels like the later in life we get, the further away we're able to communicate with that collective consciousness field. However, people that are really into, remote viewing or meditation or, transcendental meditation, things like this, where you're coming away from reality and going into some other mental dimension or, ethereal dimension, they seem to be able to tap into it because they're not so focused on this world. They're focusing on, tapping into the energy, tapping the source. And I feel like we could do that if we really, really focused on it. It's just most people don't care enough, or most people are too busy, honestly. Most people are too busy to have the time to meditate, have the time to take care of themselves, have the time to deal with their physical and emotional and spiritual needs. I mean, how many times do we not go to the gym because we're too tired from the day? We don't have enough energy to do it. Or we don't have enough time to do it because we're taking care of our families. Or we don't have enough time because we're working too hard to stay alive. How many times do we tell ourselves, oh man, I'm going to meditate this weekend, or I'm going to do Tai Chi, or I'm going to take care of my health, or I'm going to I don't know, even go to church, or whatever your spiritual needs are. And you just don't do it, you don't do it. You don't focus on yourself because you're sacrificing yourself, which we need to do to a degree. But if we don't take care of ourselves, we fall down a pretty bad rabbit hole where, the lack of maintenance of our body and our spirit and our soul catches up to us in ways that we don't want to deal with. And sometimes life just throws things your way and you just can't, you didn't expect it, My sister always said, if you don't take time to take care of your body will take the time out so that you focus on it. And then she had a surgery on her gallbladder that she wasn't expecting at all. Just came out of nowhere. It's not like she wasn't taking care of herself. She was totally taking care of herself, but things come out of the blue and we don't end up taking care of ourselves until sometimes it's too late. So make sure you're taking care of yourself. Look into, meditation. Look into prayer. Look into all kinds of avenues of the spirit. Make sure it's a positive light. Make sure it's a healthy light. Make sure it's a good light. That is not only beneficial for you, but it's going to be beneficial for others. If it's something where you can help other people, great. If you can help yourself first spiritually, you can help other people along their spiritual path too. And it doesn't have to be preachy. It doesn't have to be anything like that. It can be just supportive. But if you set yourself into the right physical frame and mental frame and spiritual frame of mind first, then you can help others. For me, it's doing like Tai Chi or Qigong in the morning, having that time to like have peace and tranquility and get in touch with my body and get the lymphatic system moved out. Because I'm getting older, I need to like take care of the body so that it takes care of my brain. So that's something I prioritize. So what does this have to do with dreams? Not 100% sure. But it's taking care of yourself and taking care of your brain so that you can take care of this world that we're living in. And what happens in the next world, I guess we're all have our own beliefs on that. I like to look at Danny and Brinkley, who was a veteran who got blasted with a lightning bolt while he was on the phone in the 70s when the phones were connected to the wall. And the lightning came through the wall, blasted him out of his shoes. He died. He went up, had guardian angel encounter, the life review 360, and changed his entire life. And now he sits at the bedside of fallen soldiers and other people in the hospital to give back. And it's about that mind frame. It's about that mindset, that in spiritual enlightenment and development of where you want to be and who you want to be. So who do you want to be? It's not always easy to have peace and tranquility in dealing with yourself and dealing with others. It's hard. If you're a parent, it's very challenging. If you're dealing with coworkers, sometimes they could be challenging. If you're dealing with just life, it can be challenging. And I wish you the best on it. So I like to have these conversations because I think it's interesting to look at. It's interesting to look at the pleasures we can get out of the dream state, the information we can get out of the dream state, bring it into this world, and utilize that valuable information from the ethereal and bring it into this 3D consciousness that we're in and have it help us. So I wish you nothing but the best. I love you guys. I hope you guys are taking care of yourselves physically, spiritually, and emotionally, following through on your hobbies and your goals and your dreams. And as always, continue to question the universe around you. So until next time, guys, take care of yourselves and Lockdown Universe out. Peace.